Next, let's focus on what's happening in the US. Towards the end of February, President Trump said when you have 15 people and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a good job that we've done. Well, the latest figure is that there are 607 cases in America in 34 states and in Washington, D.C., and there have been 22 deaths. But the president is still tweeting things like this. The fake news media and their partner, the Democratic Party, is doing everything to inflame the coronavirus far beyond what the facts would warrant. And the president also said this when visiting the Centers for Disease Control at the weekend.
I like this stuff. You know, my uncle, he's a great person. He was at MIT. He taught at MIT for, I think, like a record number of years. He was a great super genius, Dr. John Trump. I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so much about this? Maybe I have a natural ability. Maybe I should have done that instead of running for president. But you know what they've done is very incredible. I understand that whole world. I love that world. I really do. I love that world.
Well, the president's saying scientists have been impressed by his knowledge. Perhaps this was just after admitting at the same press conference that before the COVID-19 outbreak began, he didn't know that people died from the seasonal flu. He also said this about the availability of testing kits.
Anybody right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the test. And the tests are beautiful. Anybody that needs a test gets a test.
That's not necessarily true. Last week, Vice President Mike Pence, who's leading the administration's response to the crisis, said we don't have enough tests to meet what we anticipate will be the demand going forward. Well, federal officials say that more than 5,000 tests have been conducted, but we know that some tests have to be used more than once on an individual. So saying 5,000 doesn't mean 5,000 individuals have been tested. A recent tally by The Atlantic magazine estimated 1,900 people have been tested. And just for comparison, South Korea is testing 10,000 people every day. Areas of the story I want to talk to you about, because as well as meeting health officials, the president also had time for what the website The Hill called a golfing Saturday, and The Hill shared this video of the president at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. And as always, there is a tweet for everything with Donald Trump. This is from 2014. He said, President Obama has a major meeting on the New York City Ebola outbreak with people flying from all over the country, but decided to play golf. All of which means there are some questions about Mr. Trump's leadership during the crisis. The New York Times says, for Trump, coronavirus proves to be an enemy he can't tweet away. This is Wired saying Trump's coronavirus press conference was even worse than it looked. He had Jay Rosen, an academic in the States from New York University, saying this press conference was a nadir of American democracy. And we have The Atlantic here saying the US isn't ready for what's about to happen. Now, the president's response to all of this criticism is summarised in this tweet from earlier: so much fake news, but questions do remain. And Chris, you're still with us. It sounds like there's an intense political debate going on about how the president's handling this.
Oh, absolutely, and what we're seeing are mixed messages coming from senior White House officials, from health officials here in the US, who are saying very clearly, as far as they're concerned, Rose, that people must be very aware of the coronavirus. Yet, at the same time, although we've had these visits by President Trump, and you saw it there, going to facilities, talking about how concerned and how much action is being taken, he then at times seems almost dismissive of the threat of COVID-19. In fact, take a look at another tweet that he said recently. He said, for example, today, nothing is shut down and life in the economy goes on. At this moment, there are 546 confirmed cases of coronavirus. Think about that and comparing it to the number of people who had died from the flu. But of course, the coronavirus is only just spreading. And the reality is the administration has been accused by Democrats of being slow in terms of addressing this. And certainly, I at the weekend was in Seattle and Washington, where there has been a major outbreak. And there is no doubt for people, and particularly in positions of authority there, that they feel it has been slow in getting them resources that they badly need, particularly testing kits.
Chris, thank you. So there's Chris on the West Coast in the Bay Area. We've
Fort Lauderdale, Florida, an hour away from President Trump, who spent the morning at his golf club after his visit to the CDC in Atlanta yesterday, where he asked Americans to remain calm and insisted that there were enough tests for the virus.
Anybody that needs a test gets a test.
But at a White House briefing today, Secretary Alex Azar forced to clarify the president's remarks, calling it shorthand, adding that what he meant to say is that you need a doctor's order for a test. As he confronts the biggest health crisis of his presidency, Trump ousting his chief of staff, calling on Congressman Mark Meadows to replace Mick Mulvaney.